Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Thank You for Sharing. Boy, it's been some time since I did a solo episode, and considering most of my episodes are solo episodes, that's probably sounding stupid. But what I mean is, last episode I had a guest on, and this has been a minute since I recorded an episode by myself. I feel like it's been such a large gap of time, and bro, let me just tell you, dog. Life has been lifing, but I want to continue to thank everybody for supporting. A really special thank you to my boy Cal, man. If you haven't been keeping up on social media, at the Instagram, it's Thank You for Sharing Pod. Follow us and follow me, and a couple of episodes I did on Cal. And Cal actually commented on the video. He said, "Bro, you're the GOAT," or something like that. And it was honestly the most rewarding feeling that I've had, like, doing this, because I'm doing this for artists. I'm doing this for people to get their flowers, or people to just I really want to turn the attention back to art. So to see one of the artists that I cover, and to be of his caliber, to take the time out of his day, bro, if you're watching, if you ever catch a clip of this, bro, thank you. And to everybody else who's been showing me love and been giving me, like, motivation, bro, y'all don't understand, like, when you're getting something off the ground, you need people in your circle. You need people to sit there and motivate you, because I promise you, man, throughout times of doing this, there's days I've not been motivated. I'll be completely transparent. There's days I've not been motivated, but I'm just fortunate to have certain people in my life who just keep egging me on and telling me, bro, like, do it. So it's always great to keep people, around you who are like your support system. So if you said any words of encouragement to me, truly thank you. Like, y'all don't understand how much that truly means to me. So in today's episode, man, we're going to be covering, I want to say, one of my favorite albums this year. Now, if you've been keeping up with the trend, I haven't been doing any reviews or anything from this year. Like, a lot of my works, a lot of my podcast episodes have been on episodes about things that, we've like, I ain't gonna say we've grown up with. I don't know the audience of this of everybody watching this, but it's been material, like, within the last couple of, like, I guess, decades. But I've not talked about something this new. And why I really want to talk about it is because, bro, the creativity on Teezo Touchdown's How Do You Sleep at Night album needs to be recognized. The subject matter of this album needs to be recognized, and I just could not put a plug in myself. I was so excited to talk about it with random people that I've had to make an entire episode about it. If you don't know anything about Teezo Touchdown, man, he is from Beaumont, Texas. And let me just say, bro is a very strange looking individual. Like, one thing that people notice when they first see him is that bro has nails in his hair. And when I mean nails in his hair, like actual nails from, like, hardware stores in his hair, which is strange at first. But the more you hear about his story, the more you kind of understand that he's kind of like creating a look for himself, or creating a world of himself. And boy, that translate in every aspect of art that he is doing with this entire album. So, I've been doing my research on Teezo Touchdown. Like I said before, he's from Beaumont, Texas. But one thing that I'm just interested in is this man's creative process, because simply the art that he is putting out, it's so unique that it's gathering attention by Drake, Jack Harlow, people who are thriving in this industry, and is being praised for how creative this album is. And I really want to talk about it. A lot of things that kind of, stand out to me. I would say my first experience with Teezo Touchdown had to be a little bit after listening to him on Tyler, the Creator's album. He did a song, Run It Up. I talked about that before on Call Me If You Get Lost. And when I first listened to him, it kind of rubbed me a different way, because I'm not used to listening to music like his. And when I mean like his, he talks about his sound and his sound is what he would consider something called rock and boom. And rock and boom essentially is R&B with the intensity of rock and the penmanship of hip hop and a boom to shake the world. Like he is creating his own genre, but with genres that we're familiar with. So it's like you don't get too lost, but the way he delivers things, like I think Social Cues is this, like one of the first songs I heard by him, and like dude is really just different. If you, it is something I'm gonna say that you've never heard before, but it still has like a similarity to it or a familiarity to it that kind of, you know, intrigues you. So like I said, you know, I talked about this before. I was so bummed out. He opened for Tyler when I went on tour to see him perform. He was on tour, and I got there late. But even I had a couple of friends there who was there before I was, and they were sending me like live pictures and things like that. But I didn't get to see him in person. And even then, before he blew up, I knew I kind of like regretted it. Well, I had a long day that day, so I don't know if I regretted it. But I wished I had the opportunity to really see bro and really, you know, take him in. You know, before he went on that tour, he had a conversation with Tyler, and Tyler was saying, hey, when you're on this tour and you're performing your songs, because Tyler knew how different it was, when you're on tour and you're performing these songs and you're looking at the crowd and it's not exactly clicking with them, you know, that's just because they're taking you in. Because, like, you know, even Tyler, I guess, knew he was different. Like I said before, Drake and all these people have praised his album, and he was pretty much basically telling bro, like, you know, when something's this new, you know, people may not know how to react. They're just taking it in. So don't be offended if you don't see that much crowd participation. So I say all that to say that I was super excited for this album. It was to the point where I was listening to snippets. Like, the cool thing, man, he did an album rollout for this album. And he talked about how he just wanted to incorporate beds and mattresses. And he wanted an album that would incorporate what it's like to get to know somebody. And what's one of the most intimate questions you can ask somebody? How do you sleep at night? So the album rollout, this man went on Instagram. He, for every song on the list, he made snippets of like music videos, and there were themes to these music videos of like beds and things in the background that I guess a lot of people didn't really notice. But he literally had a snippet for each song on this album, and he would release them day by day on Instagram. He would, you know, tell people to comment on the post. It is what I would say a great use of an album rollout today. Like, you know, maybe an album rollout back in the day is like maybe people meeting up and having like, I guess, certain social interactions. But this one was like, what does an album rollout look like in the digital age? And so it was, you know, communicating with fans via Instagram or different, you know, internet mediums that people use. And one thing that he did was, this man literally shared every single song on the track. Like, he shared every single song on his Instagram, like snippets of it. And as somebody who's fully listened to the album now, some of those songs sound completely different when you listen to them on the album, because you're only listening to a snippet. You would think that in a day and age where a lot of people use snippets now to kind of build excitement for their songs. And, you know, in certain scenarios, you know, this is no shade to Jack Harlow, when he dropped, you know, what is it? When he samples Fergie's song Glamorous, and then he gave us the full song. Like, I remember listening to the snippet being so excited. And, you know, that song was not received. I like the song, you know, but the song is not well received by the public at all. So it's kind of tricky, you know, giving people snippets. But Teezo gave people snippets, and you go and you listen to the whole song, and it has so many different transitions or so many different just parts of the song that you don't even think. Like, some songs sound like they can be two different songs, but when you listen to them all together, it has like, it's like cohesive, like, if that makes sense. And I remember I was listening to this specific snippet. It was called Sweet. And I remember listening to it on Instagram, and this was kind of like, I think it was a Saturday, and I decided to take myself out to dinner. I went to like this Italian restaurant, which, by the way, why are Italian restaurants or certain restaurants so like dimly lit? Like I'm just sitting in a room with other people and it's dimly lit. Like, I don't know. Anyway, that's a whole nother tangent. But I remember driving home that night and just kind of, enjoying spending time by myself and just trying to chill. And he released a snippet for the song Sweet. And someone posted the snippet on YouTube. They posted like a loop onto YouTube. And I'm never somebody who will sit here and listen to a loop or listen to a snippet like back to back to back. But bro, when I tell you that snippet was so perfect, I listened to it like a trillion times. I listened to it in the shower. And I remember just kind of sitting in my car and just driving, kind of listening to it and just imagining myself, maybe in his shoes of what he's talking about in the song. One thing that really stands out to me about Teezo, not only, and it's very much showcased on that song, but dude, this entire album has theatrical elements. And what I mean by that, like there may be times where he's using a laugh track. There may be times where he's using like a sound effect in place of the words, and it just, oh my gosh, like if you listen to the song Neighborhood, like I'm kind of throwing out song names and I'll kind of zone in on a couple of songs that I really like, but it is such theatrical that it just paints a picture as you're listening to this album. And a lot of people don't do that. A lot of people are not using sound effects. Like there's one time, like there's a part of on the song Neighborhood where he uses a fire detector beat. On my favorite song, I like Sweet, he uses like a laugh track. And it's like, I don't know, it's one thing that I genuinely enjoy about music or art is that the storytelling aspect. And he's actually, telling stories and, making it such a full immersive experience by kind of like adding stuff to it. So it's crazy to me. So in preparation for this podcast, man, I've been looking at interviews with Teezo, and he surprisingly does not have that many, interviews. Like he has this whole like Rap Radar interview, and I listened to it like a couple of times, and man, just to hear his story as an artist, coming from Beaumont, Texas, and there's been opportunities where he talks about like Trippie Redd flying him out and then him going back home for flying him out to LA and then him going back home and kind of like having, very intimate thoughts with himself of like, is this going to work out? Is his label going to drop him and things like that? And when you come onto the scene with such a different sound, that can be scary. If it's dangerous as well, because, one of the things that he says to me, you get to a point in your career where you receive nothing but love, that eventually hate has to come. But don't look at it as a negative thing. Just look at it as you getting into another uncharted category. Another uncharted territory. And he talks a little bit about his decision making in making this album, and that's how he came up with, how do you sleep at night? And the number one question that people ask him, because bro has nails in his hair, is how do you sleep at night? I think I love this album because of the versatility that it has, bro. Like you can listen to this song. I guarantee if you don't like the whole album, like I understand, like certain people have certain music tastes, but there's definitely a song that you can relate to. And one of the songs that I relate to, a song called Familiarity. And that was kind of like a song that he released before the album even came out. And in the song, he's kind of talking about like his journey of, not wanting to work 9 to 5s or, typical experiences that, everyone experiences in the workforce of like hating Mondays or, sometimes even feeling played. Like there's a part of the song he goes, God, I hate feeling played, doing the most for minimum wage. And bro, like no matter if you're getting paid minimum wage or not, there's a part of you that can really relate to that, because bro, I'm telling you, I'm in a point in my life where I'm just like, ugh, bro, like you feel, you can work jobs and you feel overqualified. And that's, that's cool. That's whatever. I think as a person, you need to take that feeling and use it. I like this song, particularly because he's talking about what it's like to grow up and have a dream and being surrounded by people who don't support you. And the people that he's talking about isn't people that you see at school. Like he mentions like, you know, mom, like mom, like I gotta go, like dad, you just gotta trust me. He says baby, like the girl he's dating, like, you gotta trust me, I got a plan. And I think when you're on this road of like chasing your dreams, you have to have a certain you have to protect your dream. When you're on this road of chasing your dreams, you have to have a sort of like delusion. You have to have a certain belief in yourself that nobody, even those closest to you, can't talk you out of what you have for you. And that's just, you putting in the work and you being so confident that what you're putting out, that you're not worried. But man, I I resonate with that because I feel like there's times in my life where people just don't understand what I got going on. They don't understand what I'm doing. And it's such a dangerous times because like I said earlier, man, when I first opened this video, bro, you'll get into a position where you don't really truly understand that you can doubt your vision sometimes. And you just have to continue to push through, man. I want everybody, like I genuinely want you to keep going, man. Keep pushing through. Keep being consistent, because I swear there's days where I don't feel like doing certain stuff, but I do it because I know if I stay consistent with things, I know if I just continue to do it, no matter if it's horrible, I decide to hold myself to a standard that I'm going to do this no matter what. And once you start, bro, that's the easy part. Once you start, like that's 99% of the work. Like keep going. And this album just really speaks to me because there's so many songs on here. It's a song called Impossible, where he's just like listing out, what would have happened. Like maybe I could have been the next Ali if I blocked that right. It's lyrics on this song Impossible that kind of, stick out to me. And the lyrics are, maybe they wanted to be a boxer till they found out they couldn't fight. Maybe they would have been the next Ali if they would have blocked that right. And he ends the song like, maybe you wanted to be a rock star, but somebody told you that you're too old. And they give you reasons why your record never sold. Who's to say what's impossible? The only way is if you never start. That's how I feel about a lot of things. That reiterates the point of I'm telling you, bro. If you have a creative idea, if you want to do something, you never know what can flourish just from you planting the seed of starting. When I wanted to make this podcast, dude, this podcast to me has been probably like a year of me just being like, all right, bro, I swear I'm going to go and buy what I need for this podcast. What if they don't like my idea of me dropping this podcast? What if people don't resonate to it? Like, bro, forget that. Like, I'm in a point right now where I'm not going to say that I'm making this purely just for me, but a lot of the stuff that I'm saying, I'm preaching to myself. A lot of stuff I want to, if this all fails and, I never got the following that I wanted, or I never whatever, I can always look back at these and this will be like diaries for me. Diaries that like when I'm feeling low, I can look back and be like, bro, this is you. Speaking to you is almost the best form of self-motivation. Then there was a day, I think when I came back, I took a trip to LA, and when I came back from LA, I was like, bro, like it's grind time. Like it's now or never. And I remember just immediately just buying everything that I wanted. And as soon as I started to create this, like everything just started to come into play. And it just worked so cohesively. And even me saying all that, I still have days that I don't feel like, doing stuff. But like at this point, I refuse to quit. At the end of the day, I know anything that I've dreamed from this platform or anything like that it can never happen if I never start it, or if I don't continue to have consistency with it. And to be an artist, or to be a person who listens to like music like this, and it really like resonates with you, like it's crazy that music like this is in the mainstream, because let's be honest, man, a lot of the mainstream music, I was kind of sitting to myself thinking the other day, and a lot of the mainstream music I listen to, so I'm not knocking them necessarily, but I'm like, bro, if you live the life that a lot of these artists kind of claim to live, you'd be miserable. Especially like after a while, you'd be miserable. So it was cool to listen to an album that was not only received well by like artists like Drake and things like that, but to also have like a positive message and to just be so unique, man. This album has so many different sounds. It's rock. You have some quirky songs. Like there's one of my favorite songs on here. I keep saying one of my favorite by every song, bro. I like the album. Listen to it. But there's a song on here called Mood Swings. And it's literally a song about bro just talking about sometimes I want to chill out, but then I end up on my phone. You know, sometimes I do my hair, I go outside, humidity happens. If it's not one thing, then it's two things. Here's another mood swing. Like, I don't know, it's quirky, but when you really think about it, it's kind of like a soundtrack to things that happen in our life, even if it's the little things, even if it's the smallest things. And to be able to have a soundtrack for that, or for somebody to capture something that's so niche, you kind of listen to it, and at first you're taken aback because you're not used to hearing stuff like that. And then you listen to it and be like, bro, this describes exactly how I feel. Like, who does that? Like, it's crazy that all of us have similar human experiences, but yet we're so different. Like, that blows my mind. Dude, I'm telling you, the production that went into this album for it to be a debut album is insane. He talked about, like, you know, when he recorded one songs and when he recorded certain songs. And he talked about like this album originally was supposed to be two different albums. He had one album that he was going to put out that he wanted to do something a little bit more familiar, or what he thought that would be received. And by his second album, he was going to put out this rock and boom, or, you know, he was going to emphasize more on his rock and boom sound. But then he said he kind of thought to himself, how naive was it for him to think that he would have a second chance if he didn't, you know, go big or go home the first time. So what he decided to do was to morph the albums together, and now we have what he has released. And I really admire him for that, because he was saying there's a point where in this music making process, he had the question, was he only making music for like his team, or was he only making music for people to really like him? But then he kind of said when he decided to do things for his own liking and not cared about anybody else's opinions, he was able to form what he has now. And regardless, you know, hate it or like it, you have to admit that bro had took an artistic risk with this album. And it's only his first album. It's just so, you got to listen to it if you haven't listened to it. It is just so, but it's also things that we're so familiar with. But you'll probably hear, for someone who's not, you're not used to this music because it's new. So at first, a lot of the songs, I'm not gonna lie, some of the songs I didn't like when I first heard them, because I'm like, I'm weird. I like them. But some songs I can understand why people might not like, because it is just so different from what we're used to. And he was saying when he was coming out with his album, he was listening to, like, you know, he was listening to debut albums like 50 Cent, Get Rich or Die Trying. He was listening to Destiny Child debut album, and was trying to give the same oomph that they had. Because if you know anything about those albums, bro, those are like high albums, especially, you know, in any sense. And for those to be debut albums, that's insane. I guess he wanted his in the same vein. And it's to the point where I'm almost worried for him, because this album is good. I'm kind of curious to see what he does next. I'm like, can he top it? Because it is just so new. But how long will people appreciate something that's new or something that's different? Like, will it be here today, gone tomorrow? Absolutely. One of my favorite songs. Now, I say a lot of songs on here are my favorite. This is my favorite song. Between this and Sweet, but it's Daddy Mama Drama. I've listened to this song a trillion times since it came out, and I would proudly tell everybody it's my absolute favorite song right now at the moment, because this song, dude, the guitar on this song, the production on this song, there's little nooks and crannies that I'm like, bro, who thinks to put sound there? Who thinks to do this with their voice and things like that? And if you haven't listened to this album, I'm pretty sure you've heard Teezo Touchdown before, because this dude has been everywhere recently. He's been on Travis Scott's new album, Utopia. Matter of fact, hold on. He's been on Utopia. Shout out my boy John Hunter my boy sent me the copy. Real love, real friends. My boy sent me this for starting the podcast. Shout out my boy John Hunter. Real friends. But, Teezo was on Utopia. And he was on For All the Dogs that just came out, Drake's new album. And the dude is just tearing it up. And it's so cool. And he's been on Don Toliver's album. So bro is really blowing up. And the song Daddy Mama Drama, like, it's pretty much talking about him growing up and kind of the age where he kind of got distant from his parents, which, I mean, admittedly, we all kind of do, those angst teenager years, anything like that. And he was just, you can kind of hear from what I take from the song, because I don't know exactly what the song's about, but what I take from the song is somebody who is chasing their dreams and kind of distance themselves from their parents, whether that's good or bad. Because there's part of the songs where he's like, I hate you. I hate, like, saying, like, I hate you. I hate you. And his parents kind of being like, don't you run away. But it was bro's pen on this song. It was the lyrics to the song that really kind of made it pop out to me. And the line that really popped out to me, or the lyrics that really popped out to me, is like, he took the familiarity of the saying, like, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, but then he flipped it. So the lyric is, the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree, but if it does, it's okay. We can go fix the screen. But if not, we could put a case on it and hope that it still rings. Bro, what? He took the apple, the old saying, then paired it with, like, an iPhone, but it's still like, what's the word? It's still like a analogy. It's still like an analogy for, like, his relationship, I guess, with his parents. And bro, when I heard that, I'm like, yo, like, this song is fire. This is my favorite song, bro. Listen to the song. It's fire. And he talked about, I used to be so close to my parents. They said when I turned 13, I just stopped caring. They said picking up your phone shouldn't feel like work or a game of who gonna call who first. And I think all of us are guilty of being so busy in life that, if you're blessed to have parents, or you're blessed to have anybody in your life who's playing that parental figure, man, show them some love. Because even me, man, like, I get caught up in the hustle and bustle that you don't take time to really appreciate things. Like, it kind of reminds me of, like, a Drake lyric where bro's talking about, I have a grandma who I barely call at all, but I could call this chick that I just met at the mall. And I think that's reflective. And, shout out to our parents of being understanding and not holding that to, and not necessarily holding that against us, as kids or as children. But we could definitely do a better job at communicating with our parents. Or at least I think so. Just, just letting them know that you appreciate them. They're not perfect. They're not perfect, but I mean, you're alive, Like, they're not perfect, but there's definitely something, no matter what the relationship is with your parents, there's something that you could thank them for. I won't go into my whole family dichotomy, but there's definitely something about both of my parents, my mom and my dad, that I can just be fortunate and be like, bro, thank you. Mom, thank you. There's no me without you, literally. And, I don't know how much time to take up with, talking about this album or getting real specific about this album. I would love for everyone to just, listen to it if you haven't listened to it. And I think that for those who have listened to it, I had a couple of friends who sat down and listened to it, and it was like, bro, thank you. Thank you for putting me on. What I'm saying? I ain't no gatekeeping brother. I got to put all the dogs on, for all the dogs. But I am interested in what he plans on doing in the future, because like he says, this is just a conversation starter. How do you sleep at night? Like, it's an intimate question, but it's a conversation starter. And he says he wants to open a conversation and kind of get everybody a little familiar with his sound of this rock and boom that he created. And he kind of wants this to be an open conversation to the albums that have yet to come. Like he wants this album to be a conversation opener to it. So I think that it's really cool to kind of give us an album that kind of, lets us explore what his sound is. And I think Drake talked about this album, like I said before, and what Drake said about this album was that it was some of the best music ever. Say what you say about Drake. I'm a Drake fan. The numbers don't lie. But for someone of his caliber to sit here and be like, this is some of the best music ever, and a lot of people didn't like that. A lot of people, was like, why would Drake co-sign this? Because they're not used to the sound. They're not used to something new. And it's okay, bro. You don't have to like it, but you can respect the artist for their endeavors of like trying something different, and especially in this day and age. And I just want to kind of touch back on the album rollout, man. I love when people make this world or create a world for their albums, because it just makes me see that they're putting so much care into the product that they're giving out. And no matter what it is, music, movies, stuff that you buy, you want people to know that like you're putting in a good product. You want to know that people are putting quality behind the things that you're listening to. Like you want to make sure that that is something that they're doing. Even he talked about growing up and listening to Drake when he first got put on Drake. But one thing that he kind of said that resonated to me was that you attach music to memories. And that's literally the reason why I made this podcast. Like there are so many memories surrounded around movies and music that everyone has a story to tell. Everyone has their own relation to something that is so mass produced. Like it's crazy. You can listen to an album that everyone has listened to, but yet you have such a different experience from the different person. And that's cool. Like that's an experience that is not like a lot of things that we could say on earth. Like there's not a lot of people who can experience the same thing, but in different ways. And I think that's the beauty behind this stuff. And that's why I get so passionate when it comes to talking about albums like these, or just albums I feel like that kind of are the soundtracks to the things that we do in life. Like I went to LA a couple of months ago, and I just remember like listening to this album, going out there, and it kind of was the soundtrack where I was out in LA and just chilling. And it's just a vibe, man. Like it's a vibe. And ultimately it's so refreshing to see somebody who's going a different road, a different route, especially in the music industry where, we have all these debates about people who are plants, or all this music from certain artists who they feel like, or kind of like, there are certain artists, I'm not finna name some names, but there are certain artists we have to have a conversation about because they be putting out the same song just with different lyrics. So it's cool to see that an artist's creativity and weirdness, he's a weird guy, it's cool to see it pay off, because I think what it's going to do, I think it's going to pave the way for other artists. And then what we're going to get is just different sounding pieces of art that are just so unique from each other, but, all inspire us in different ways. And if you're a true music fan, if you're a true fan of music, or you're a true fan of art, I think that's what you look for. I think you look for something that's different, something that is not, the norm. And I think that's the approach that we need to be taking in life. My last episode, my guest John, one thing that he said was like, if you want something truly different, a lot of people are not going to gravitate to it. And I think that is such a true statement. If you want something that's really different, or you're doing something that's really different, think about albums like Yeezus, one of my favorite albums. When it first came out, it was not received well by any means, but now people consider it one of Kanye's best albums. And it was because, as an artist, he decided to take that risk. So whether it's art, whether it's life, if you have goals, just do it. You never know. But you do know it's impossible if you never do it. I don't even know if that's cheesy. I just use that line, but no, it's true. Like if you never start, it's impossible. If you start and stop, it's impossible. Like no matter what facet, no matter what area in your life, whether you're an artist, whether you're doing like other jobs, like take that risk because you never know. Like there's so many things that we wouldn't have if people didn't take risks. If people decided to do things the same way over and over and over again, we would not be as involved as we are, mentally or things like that in all different areas of life. So I really want to end the episode by saying continue to be unique, continue to be yourself. Just continue to keep grinding. Once you start, just keep grinding. Don't care about what nobody else say. Like, just keep grinding, keep putting work into the things that you're doing, and just keep grinding ultimately above anything else. It's really that simple. Consistency. I'm trying to get better with the consistency when it comes to all of this. But thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for everything. I want to hear your opinion on this album. I want to hear your opinion of what you would want to see in the upcoming episodes as I continue to build this environment and build this safe space for everybody to come and just to open a dialogue for everybody to kind of get things off their chest in terms of like how they feel about projects. I want to have a space where people are not afraid to go against the norm. A space where people can really state their opinion about something that, whether it be a movie or whether it be an art that may be different for somebody else and it be respected or, regardless, you're just opening the dialogue for that. Like I want that. So continue to hit me up, continue to comment on my videos, shout out to everybody who's been on this journey with me, dog. I am immensely grateful. People have been saying, like I said before, people have been saying the nicest things to me, dog. And y'all don't understand. Y'all are the fire beneath me on the days that I don't. You know what I'm saying? Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Chris out.